As you may have guessed, we're not Chinese. We're American. But for the last 10 years, we've been moving around the world. We've lived in the United States, Northeast China, Brazil, and now here in Wuhan. The beautiful thing about moving around the world like this is that we're not just traveling and playing a tourist. We don't just take pictures and eat a few meals and then leave. We stay for a few years, and we get to know how a place works and really what the culture is like. We lived in Brazil for 2 years, and if you could sum up the Brazilian culture in one word, it would be futebol. But I'm American, so I'm going to say soccer. Brazilians love soccer. They play soccer, everybody has their favorite team. Well, we were there for the World Cup, and we saw the whole country rallying behind their national team. We went to a soccer-themed birthday party for one of my daughter's friends from kindergarten. And while we were there, I got to see where this Brazilian love of soccer comes from. Over the course of the party, dads would take their boys out to outside to go play football, or to soccer, I'm American. They would go take them outside to play soccer. And it was just one-on-one, dads playing with their boys. But as more and more dads and boys joined them, they formed teams and spent the rest of the birthday party playing soccer outside. I'm American, so I stayed inside and sat by the food table and ate the whole time. But it was really cool to see that for Brazilians, it's not just a game or a hobby. Soccer is a family thing. This love of soccer is passed down from generation to generation. And that's how it became part of their culture. Culture is formed by those things that we do in our families, with our parents, with our grandparents, with our children. These things become part of us in a way that school and work just don't. Since I'm raising my family on the other side of the world from my home and my culture, I think a lot about the type of culture that I'm raising my children in. I want them to be American. I want them to be comfortable in American culture, but I don't want to isolate ourselves in a little American island. I want them to experience the world around them. I want them to learn from the beauty of the cultures where we're living, but still be American. So that's the balance I'm trying to find. I have 1 billion Chinese people teaching my children about Chinese culture. Thank you. But that leaves it up to me then to teach them about American culture. That leads us to the next logical question, which is, what is American culture? Is it speaking English? Is it smiling too much? Is it driving big trucks and shooting guns? Is it eating McDonald's? Well, yes and no. We do speak English at home. 可是我也是尽量帮我孩子学习中文. We smile too much. But I like that part of American culture. We don't drive big trucks or shoot guns. Not every day. And we do eat at McDonald's. A lot. But ironically, mostly just when we're in China. The important parts of Chinese culture, the important parts of American culture to me, though, are the parts that I shared with my family growing up, such as baking bread. Now, I never baked bread with my parents. Like most modern American families, if we needed bread, we went to the supermarket and bought it. But when we went to my grandma's house, she would make fresh bread for us. I remember walking into her house and smelling the freshly baking bread, which is one of the best smells in the whole world. I remember her teaching me how to make the little rolls and let them rise and bake them. And she'd send us home with the leftovers, which we just loved. When we moved to China, I realized that if I wanted to eat the kind of bread I was used to, then I was going to have to learn how to make it. So I did. Now, when my kids walk in the house, sometimes they smell freshly baking bread. I'm teaching them how to roll the dinner rolls and let them rise and bake them. It's becoming part of our culture. Now, I can't take them to my grandma's house, but every time we make bread, I can take them with me and it's like we're there. Another part of my culture that I really love is hard work. When I was little, my parents made my brothers and sisters and me work around the house. We cooked, we cleaned, we worked in the garden. Now these aren't like my favorite childhood memories, like Disneyland and my birthday and cleaning, but they're important because they're valuable. I learned that if there's food in the kitchen, with a little bit of work, I can put it together and make a meal. I learned that toilets are gross, but I can change that. I learned that if there's a big rock pile out in the yard, after a couple weeks and a lot of help from my parents, I can make it into a flower garden. But more importantly, I learned that the work I do contributes to my family. I was valuable and I was important. And just like the theme of this conference says, I learned that I was possible. At the time, I sort of just felt like my parents had children so that we would do all the work. They just wanted some free slave labor. But now I have children of my own, and I'm teaching them how to work hard. A few weeks ago, I made my 5-year-old son wipe the kitchen counter and the kitchen table. A job that takes me about 1 minute. 25 minutes. 25 minutes is how long it took him to do it. And it's about 25 times of me saying, okay, keep going. Yes, just like that. Yes, keep going right here. Wipe some more. This is not kids doing all the work. This is more work for me. But it's an investment. I want my kids to be capable and independent. This is an investment. I repeat this to myself several times while I'm doing this so I don't just jump in and do it for them. Because in my culture, we value capability and independence. And we value hard work. And I mean hard work like wiping the kitchen counter. But as my kids get bigger, and as their jobs get bigger, so will their ability to do it. And as life gets harder, and problems get bigger, so will their ability to tackle them. And that's why that's important to me in my culture. Another part of my culture that's important to me is culture. I mean like art and music and literature, the great parts of my culture. You know, when I was little, not even when I was little, like up till now, I've never gone to a rock and roll concert. I mean like a real rock and roll concert where you have famous rock stars and you pay money for tickets. But whenever a famous classical group or classical artist would come to my hometown, my parents would buy tickets and get us all dressed up and take us to go see them. We saw the King Singers, which is a singing group from England. We saw the Canadian Brass, which is a brass group, obviously from Canada. My parents wanted to share their love of classical music with us, and so it became our family culture. So now with my kids, I'm trying to teach them to enjoy classical music too. So a little while ago in the car, I made my kids listen to Mozart's opera, The Magic Flute. Now nobody likes opera, right? So that's why we listened in the car, so that no one could run away. Now, I'd seen this opera a few times in college, and I really liked it. So while they were listening to the songs, I would tell them what was happening in the story and how the music was helping to tell the story. And they loved it. When we got home, they actually asked to keep listening. I was shocked, sort of. I mean, Mozart wrote great music, and it's a really fun play. But I think mostly they were excited about it because I was excited about it. I was doing something I loved and sharing it with them, and it was a great experience. culture comes from, is sharing these things that we love with our family. If I was Brazilian, I would go play soccer with my kids. But I'm not, so I share what I love with them. So I want you to imagine your ideal culture. Now, you don't have to go to the other side of the world to move 7,000 miles away from home before you can create a culture. In fact, everything that we're doing, whether it's intentional or not, is creating a culture. And I want to let you in on a little secret. My family doesn't always have the five of us happily singing and cleaning the floors. We're not Disney princesses. Sometimes our culture looks a little bit more like this. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, what? That looks familiar to you? These are becoming a big part of our modern culture. But are they replacing our actual cultures? Now, don't get me wrong. Our cell phones give us so much information, and especially in China, so much convenience. We really can't be part of America or of modern culture without a cell phone. But what are we giving up when we spend all of our free time scrolling through social media? When we play video games, which, let's face it, use up a lot of our time, but achieve absolutely nothing in real life. Or when we send messages and we text with people while we ignore the people closest to us. What will our children remember about when they are growing up? What will they reminisce about that they loved doing with their parents and their grandparents? Their lives are made up of moments, and we have a choice as to how we spend those moments. And that choice is how we create a culture, whether we live on the other side of the world or just down the hall from our parents and grandparents. So imagine your ideal culture. You know, the one where you appreciate great music and great art, where you cook the best food from your culture, where you play your national sport, where you spend quality time with the people you love. Isn't that a beautiful and meaningful life? Choose to make that culture a reality. Make the effort. Choose to be cultured.